So what weight class is Carter Starocci wrestling at this season? Well, recently he actually told all of us.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We have more clarity as far as what Penn State Wrestling's starting lineup is going to look like for the upcoming season. That includes Carter Starocci, Levi Haynes, what could happen at 197, 149, and 157. This is Locked On Nittany Lions. I'm your host, Zach Seyko, and thanks so much for making us your first listen and watch. Every single day we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. I'd really appreciate it if you left a like on this episode, but more importantly, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section about Penn State's starting lineup, as Carter Starocci has now publicly stated that he is moving to 184 pounds. This has a bit of a domino effect to it as well. But he has officially stated, he's on the record saying that he's going to 184, not 197. And he also added this, that it is what is best for the Penn State lineup this season as he chases his fifth title. Now, this was officially reported by a local publication. The Center Daily Times had officially reported these comments that he said, yes, I'm going to 184, and also that this is what is best for the Penn State lineup. Is it, though? I agree with that, actually. I agree with him saying that. If you remember on this show, my initial projection for Carter was that if he was going to return, I had my doubts about him actually returning for a fifth season. He ultimately did. He is ultimately returning for this upcoming season. But I thought that it would be best for him to move to 184 as opposed to 197, because there was a lot of chatter about 197. And I think Carter was one of the ones who initially kind of fanned the flames for all of that, saying that he could go up to 197. It was a possibility. It was a discussion. But I also think that it might have been a little too optimistic for Carter to move up, not one, but two weight classes. That was a lot. You don't just add weight to add weight. Could he wrestle at 197? Yes. But is Carter Starocci's best version of himself as a wrestler going for that fifth NCAA title? Is it at 197? I think we can all agree that that is not the case. That 174 or 184, I think it's getting a little too tough to cut weight. Carter's talked about his diet a lot in terms of sharing his upcoming goals for the season, and that it's just, it's easier to manage all of this rather than cutting to 174. So he is at 184, and Carter is doing this local restaurant tour where he's eating at different Center County establishments and discussing these goals for the season and how his training, his fitness, his nutrition has gone so far. You can see some of those videos up on YouTube, actually. Then there are questions about the knee injury. Okay, so now we know that Carter Starocci is at 184, but it's not like he's not coming off of a season that was riddled with rehab and took a lot of work to make sure that he could wrestle for that NCAA title for the fourth time. And there was conflict in between with it as well. Don't forget what happened at the Big Ten tournament. But I guess at the end of the day, all's well that ends well, right? With this knee injury, is he 100%? That is still my personal concern. I have my doubts that he is 100% to this point. And I'll explain why in a second. But the good news is, when we talk to the voice of Penn State Wrestling, Jeff Byers, he says that he has no concerns. There should be no issues when it comes to Carter Starocci's knee. And then Carter says himself that there are no issues with his knee. So those are the primary sources here, that Carter is going to be fine. And he said, wait and see for the NWCA All-Star Classic, which is November 16th in Rec Hall. So there's still time to get adjusted, situated, shake some rust off. But that's my point. I will take his word for it. I'll take the confidence and everything. But just kind of logically speaking, I'm going to have my doubts, because from what we know, that was a serious injury. And it took a lot of work just for him to compete in those NCAA finals at 174 not too long ago. And then he went out and competed at the Olympic trials as well. So Carter didn't have this extended timeline to get rested, rehabilitated, and everything. Do I think he's going to be just fine at the end of the day? I don't think this has overall season implications, but if Carter needs to shake some rust off, I think we'll give him that. I think we'll give him that luxury, that benefit of the doubt if he doesn't look at his best, at his top form, that it's no cause for concern. But just to get back to 110%, logically speaking, and what it takes to compete at the best, I just have my concerns still, but that doesn't have any implications for the fifth NCAA. That doesn't have any concerns for me regarding the fifth NCAA title. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. I'm just anticipating that he's not going to look as overly dominant right out of the gate. So if Carter is officially now that he is officially at 184 pounds, that means that he's bumping somebody else out of the starting lineup. That somebody is Josh Barr. How does that impact the lineup? Plus, we'll talk about Levi Haynes as well, as it's all but confirmed that he is now wrestling at 174 pounds. But what does that mean for a possible red shirt? We'll discuss all of that and more in the upcoming segment. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risks. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Today's episode is also brought to you by Home Field Apparel. Hey, football fans, college sports fans, fall is finally here, and that means one thing. College football is back in full swing. And to make sure you're ready, we partnered with Home Field, the exclusive apparel sponsor of our show, to bring you their Can't Miss Kickoff 2024 campaign. Home Field is the go-to for premium collegiate apparel, crafted with comfort in mind and featuring vintage designs that'll make you the envy of any tailgate. With over 180 schools to choose from, including Penn State, there's something for every fan. But the real MVP, the Home Field Platinum Football Box. This is your all-access pass to exclusive gear for the 2024 season with 3 never-before-seen items from your school. Plus, VIPs get even more. You get a special hat and the 2024 Platinum Pass for early access and discounts all season long. Plus, Home Field also creates Penn State wrestling apparel as well, in addition to college football, Penn State college football apparel. So don't wait. Head to homefieldapparel.com and gear up today. And we got a promo code for you to use at checkout. That is WEARE24, WEARE24. Get you 15% off at checkout. That's homefieldapparel.com. Once again, let's make this season unforgettable. Since Carter was set to wrestle at 184 pounds, that was presumably Josh Barr's spot. He was supposed to take over 184 after Bernie Truax, and Aaron Brooks vacates 197. So this is kind of a double conversation here about 184 and 197, because Josh Barr was supposed to be the start at 184, but then, some matchmaking, puzzle piece moving for this Penn State wrestling lineup. Things have changed, and this is the bit of the domino effect here. So now you really get a log jam at 197 pounds here, since Josh Barr is displaced. Josh Barr took the red shirt. This is a different story if he hadn't taken the red shirt a season ago, because that conversation has now been reserved for potentially a Tyler Kasak, but we'll get to that. Potentially a Levi Haynes. We will talk about that in just a second. Josh Barr has already used the red shirt, and he was supposed to be 184. Well, naturally, he can move up to 197. Let's put it that way, that Josh Barr can move up to 197. And is he the best option at 197, though? He's not the best option at 184 if Carter Starocci's there. In a year's time, after Starocci ultimately moves on with this 5th season, then Josh Barr can resettle back in at 184, and that can be his spot. But at 197 for the 24-25 season, Josh Barr is going to have to go up against not only Lucas Cochran, who I think has been patiently waiting his turn, I mean, let's give some props to Lucas Cochran, who's really waited it out, who's been patient, who has competed at heavyweight, giving up pounds and pounds and winning against ranked competition at heavyweight when that is not his class. That is not his class. 197 is, and now Josh Barr is moving up to potentially face a Lucas Cochran in a wrestle-off for that spot. But hold on a second. That's not the only person in this conversation here. How about the true freshman Connor Mirasula? Connor Mirasula, as a true freshman, has a stake in this conversation as well. He should absolutely be up for consideration to be the starting wrestler at 197 pounds. Let me put it into perspective about Mirasula. Mirasula would be my choice between Josh Barr moving to 97, Lucas Cochran, and Mirasula. I think Connor Mirasula, as a true freshman, is better than the three of them, out of the three of them. If you're looking at longevity and playing, actually running a program like Cael Sanderson is, your starter is either Josh Barr or Lucas Cochran because you still have a red shirt available to Connor Mirasula, and then you can allow him to just kind of continue to work on his craft. But from day one of this season, I can argue that Connor Mirasula is the best option at 97, but if you're looking for the program long term, it might be more beneficial for Penn State to ultimately redshirt him. The one piece of evidence that I look at about Mirasula being the best option here is that he continues to dominate at these tournaments. Now, granted, they're freestyle versus folk style, so maybe that's where Barr and Cochran, maybe they have an advantage, okay? Freestyle is different. But Mirasula, what impressed me the most was, as a senior in high school, finishing up his senior campaign in high school, and he goes to the Olympic trials, wrestles Aaron Brooks. He does not win that match. Aaron Brooks wins convincingly, but Aaron Brooks did not give up a takedown all season long in his final run at Penn State, where he won the national title at 197 pounds against Trent Hidley. Connor Mirasula took him down as a high school senior, had not wrestled in college yet, and took Aaron Brooks down after Aaron Brooks just ran through the college competition. That kind of puts into perspective just how good Connor Mirasula is. So 197 is truly a toss-up. My choice in terms of the best overall option right now is Connor Mirasula. I think he is the best. But I think it's going to come down to Josh Barr or Lucas Cochran because you have that red shirt available to Connor Mirasula. Do not be surprised if there is a wrestle-off in the middle of the season and that Penn State doesn't have a clear-cut starter at 197. You can rotate guys in. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Mirasula for a match. We see Josh Barr for a match, Lucas Cochran for a match, and then Penn State decides down the road if they are in fact going to redshirt Mirasula, because you can wrestle up to 5 matches before you have to take that red shirt. Speaking of red shirts, Levi Haynes and the NWCA All-Star Classic that Carter Starocci was alluding to in the middle of November. Levi Haynes, the initial promotion for the Classic was at 174 pounds. Interestingly enough, promoted Levi Haynes and his opponent, Rocco Welsh, Ohio State wrestler, PA native, also runner-up to Carter Starocci this past season for the 174 title. So there it is. If you doubted any of the initial talk, rumblings, discussions about Levi Haynes going to 174 pounds, it's now black and white. He is moving to 174 pounds. It's there. The question that remains, is he redshirting? Levi Haynes doesn't have to redshirt. I think it benefits the program long term if he does, because you have that available. Alex Facundo just took his red shirt to compete internationally. We can debate back and forth who's the better option, Alex Facundo, Levi Haynes. What we do have on record is the fact that at the Olympic trials in that same weight class, Alex Facundo defeated Levi Haynes. It's freestyle versus folk style, I understand, but Levi Haynes is jumping up 2 weight classes. He looked really good. He looked really good at the World Team Trials. But Levi Haynes is still going to have to get adjusted. Alex Facundo has been training, has been wrestling at this upper weight class for quite some time. I'm not saying that Haynes can't get adjusted, but if he needs more time, maybe a red shirt is beneficial to him long term. So Facundo I'm okay with Facundo being the starter at 174. I think he can compete for an NCAA title at 174. Overall, I think Levi Haynes is better right now. If you put them head to head, I think Levi Haynes does win that. But we're talking about program longevity again. Levi Haynes, it might be in Penn State's better interest to ultimately redshirt him. And I don't want to leave Zach Ryder out of this conversation either. The true freshman will certainly throw his hat in the ring as well. He's looked great in outside competition as well. I think he is underrated to an extent. People just kind of lump him in that he's automatically going to take a red shirt. And this is a great problem to have for Penn State, that there's some that you can redshirt former NCAA champions. You have true freshmen that could come in and win an NCAA, or at least compete for an NCAA title and start at other programs. That's what Connor Mirasula is. That's what Zach Ryder is in this freshman class. So don't count out Zach Ryder just yet. There might be a wrestle off at 174 as well. I don't think Alex Facundo is a shoe-in by any means. I think it's more beneficial for Penn State to redshirt Levi Haynes, which means Alex Facundo would be the starter, but Zach Ryder is going to give him a run for his money. There's still discourse about 165. Why doesn't Levi Haynes just go to 165? Mitchell Messenbrink's there. Mitchell Messenbrink is going to be around for a long time. Oh, well, Mitchell Messenbrink should just cut and go to 157. It is not that simple. Does Mitchell Messenbrink want to cut? In a perfect world, yes, that's what the lineup should look like. Messenbrink at 57, Haynes at 65, and not having to bump up one but two weight classes, and then Facundo at 74. Ideally, in a perfect world, that's the case. But if you're Messenbrink and you just finished runner-up with the case where you could have won had you known the score of that title against David Carr, so you were that close. You were seconds away from a title at 65, and you're going to cut down to 157? That doesn't make any sense when you were that close. At 150, and speaking of 157, Tyler Kasak is coming off of a phenomenal season where he ran the gauntlet through the consolation bracket and made a statement, made his name known at 157. So Messenbrink's going to stay at 65. Because he is that close to winning an NCAA title and should be the favorite. At 157, Tyler Kasak is one of those favorites in that weight class. And we also get more clarity at 149 as well, and Shane Van Ness's progress. That's what we'll finish up with on the other side of this break. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get the hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. It's that convenient, it's that simple, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's right, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That is over at FanDuel.com. And if you look over at FanDuel right now, the lines are up and active for Penn State football versus Illinois. Penn State is still a minus 17.5 point favorite against the Fighting Illini, minus 1,000 on the money line. Illinois is plus 640 on the money line. The total is set at 47.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them all right now at FanDuel.com. Again, that's FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It's kind of crazy how one tournament, the NWCA All-Star Classic, and its promotions can kind of give us answers to what we've been wondering about Penn State's starting lineup. So in that initial promotion as well, Levi Haynes versus Rocco Welsh. That's one of the highlighted matchups at 174. Well, at 149, Ty Waters versus Shane Van Ness was one of the other initial promotions. So that's a solid indicator that not only is Shane Van Ness going to be the wrestler at 149, but that he has progressed enough from his injury a season ago to where he can comfortably wrestle and compete at 149 against one of the best wrestlers. So he has not only, he is ready to go, but he's been invited to wrestle one of the best, Ty Waters, at that 149-pound weight class. And that doesn't leave any doubt that Tyler Kasak, who filled in at 149, okay. So if Shane Van Ness is the option at 149, and we just talked about how Messenbrink isn't going to cut to 57, there's Tyler Kasak again, who was supposed to be the heir apparent to Bo Bartlett at 141. Shane Van Ness gets hurt. He moves up to 149, takes third place. Speaking of which, also beat said Ty Waters in that 149-pound weight class, and 57's wide open. Levi Haynes making the jump to go 2 weight classes. Well, Tyler Kasak is going to do just that. Like before, I think it was overly presumptuous to say that Kasak was going to stay at 141. It's the same thing to assume that Haines was going to stay at 157. Everybody's going to get bigger, faster, stronger, and they can't just stay in the confines of this weight class. Luke Lillidahl, for example, and Braden Davis. I don't anticipate that Lillidahl is going to stay at 125 forever. Braden Davis was the same way, and now he's moving up to 133 as well to compete with an Aaron Nagel for that starting spot at that weight class. But this conversation will be finished with Kasak now at 157. Kasak doesn't need to take a red shirt here, because there's no logjam at 157. There is an open spot for him. Penn State is training him to be the 157-pound wrestler. And I think one way or another, you could go with either wrestler. Shane Van Ness could wrestle at 57. Kasak could wrestle at 49. But instead, I think it's going to be Van Ness at 49 and Kasak at 57. Jeff Byers has alluded to this as well, is that Kasak is just kind of outgrowing these weight classes. He is getting bigger, he is getting stronger, and it makes sense for him to naturally be in that 57-pound class as opposed to trying to cut weight even to a 49, whereas naturally it works for Van Ness. So now, to bring it full circle, we have more clarity about Penn State Wrestling's starting lineup and answering questions at all of those weight classes. 149, expect Shane Van Ness. 157, expect Tyler Kasak. 165, expect Mitchell Messenbrink. 174, if Levi Haynes doesn't take the red shirt, it's Levi Haynes, but I think he should take the red shirt, meaning that Alex Facundo would be the wrestler at 74. Carter Starocci has publicly said that he is at 184. We know that Greg Kirkfleet is going to be the heavyweight, but what about 197? That is truly the toss-up. I don't think we have any more clarity as far as who officially the guy will be, but we know that there's going to be 3 options between Connor Mirasola, Josh Barr, who's been displaced from 184 because he's not just going to ride the bench. He is going to compete, and he'd only be moving up 1 weight class. And then there's Lucas Cochran, who's been waiting patiently for his turn to show out. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions, a wrestling episode. Again, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. That 197 battle, I'm interested to know who you think will ultimately end up on top. Do you think Levi Haynes should take that red shirt? I want to know all of your thoughts down in the comments section. I'd really appreciate it if you left a like on this episode, share it with friends and family. And if you're not already, become an everydayer, subscribe to Locked On Nittany Lions on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts for the latest conversations around your favorite Penn State sports teams. And thanks again for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. Now for your second listen and watch, check out Locked On College Football with host Spencer McLaughlin. You have game recaps, game previews, all of the latest news and analysis throughout the week to get you ready for that upcoming slate of games. And that's why it's called Locked On College Football. It's available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. And it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.